Hello, Furality Aqua. My name is Roxy. Welcome to my panel. This is streaming for VRChat events. I have a ton of slides to get through. We're going to jump right in. So, who's this panel for? It's meant for anyone that wants to stream content to a VR audience. DJs, event hosts, VR clubs, all of that. So, what are our talking points going to be today? Going to go over PC specs, bitrate, hardware versus software encoding, OBS Studio settings, content delivery services, multi-DJ events, Rtmp relays, additional tool or two, and some personal projects I've been working on behind the scenes. And if I'm able to get through everything in time, we'll have a little bit of time for a Q&A. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot to go through. All right, so who am I? All right, VR me. So, by the way, several of the pictures that you're going to see in the slides are done by my wonderful boyfriend, Caboose. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I'm a lot to put up with. So, you might know me from a number of things. Here at Furality, I'm the club stream team lead. I'm the guy behind the guys and the girls and everything in between that are handling all the crowd cams going on in Club Fin. So, I've been doing this since Luma was at Legends, and now Aqua. Also over at Tailbase, I'm the Tech Fox. I've been doing the Tailbase coordination stuff with mBlade since late 2020 to now. I'm also involved with Vibe Night. I'm nicknamed the Supreme Intern. That's really fancy talk for I'm part of logistics. I help set up stuff, servers on the back end, like Rtmp relay, help with the crowd cams, do some transcoding work, you name it. And also, Hex Furry Fest. I'm the former stream lead, now technically an advisor. TechCast Pork, one of my team members, is actually the current stream lead. So if you've been to HFF 3 or Mythical Forest 1 and 2 last year, I was the fox behind the scenes. And my cat is now yelling at me. Hi, Roxas. You always show up at the right time. So who am I away from keyboard? So here's... I'm a regular VR enthusiast. Yes, hi, Burutatsu out there in the audience. A former Apple certified Final Cut Pro trainer, so every now and then get to play with some video editing hobby stuff. And in general, I'm just a big IT nerd, systems and network admin, and a trainer. So in the picture you see behind me, or side, there is me and Burutatsu partying at Furry Week in Atlanta several weeks ago. He is the reason I started down this crazy path of all this stream shenanigans. It all started back in late 2020. I started helping him with his Burutatsu Monday streams, if you're familiar with them. And we got to meet and party. As soon as he found me on the dance floor, I was tackled by a giant German dragon. Also, cool thing, me and several of his friends were really hoping that he was going to be able to make it to Megaplex last year, but due to COVID stuff, he wasn't able to travel. So one of the things we did is we bought a bottle of his favorite drink, and that is Jägermeister, otherwise known as Burumeister. And that was the house bottle. When we finished it, all of us signed it, and I was able to give him that signed bottle at FWA up in Atlanta. And if you ever watch his stream on Monday, that is the very bottle that now sits on the front of his DJ decks. It's like, yes. Also, okay, so Tailbase, right? A lot of you know me because of Tailbase. What have we been up to? Oh, right, so ton has been going on. Mostly a bunch of real life stuff, right? mBlade's had work. I've been involved across a bunch of other stuff. But please, no, we're still here. We've got stuff in the works. So we've got a revamp of the Discord coming. We still plan to release a public version of the Tailbase Tatum, right? Because it's got that mobile crowd cam, little animated camera system. So you clone it, walk around with it, and then you just set it in spot, and you can have a camera that goes around the room wherever you go. You don't have to wait for you don't have to depend on a club world that has a camera system built in. Also, mBlade and I have been talking about making a little sticker for clubs and events that we help out with, a little supported by Tailbase. So even though we haven't been running our own events right now, we're behind the scenes, and we've been helping out in a lot of places. Like such as Vibe Night. And if you've been to a con in the last several months, there's usually a VR portal, right? So we've been helping with that. And Texelsor who's over here right now, he has a panel later that's going to be covering just that. He's going to be talking about setting up VR portals at cons. It's going to be great. Events. How about some Tailbase events? We're working on it. We're working on it. If you're at all interested in joining the community and following our updates and everything, just hit up tailbase.com. That's going to get you a link to our Discord. All right, so let's get into it. While you're here, right, we're talking about streaming for VRChat events. So what kind of PC specs should you have, bare minimum? Okay, AMD or Intel? It doesn't matter. At least have 4 cores. You know, in this day and age, just about any processor you buy is going to have usually 6 or 8, it seems. So, but as long as you have at least 4, you're good in streaming condition. But I will preface this with saying, be careful with your PC specs. Just because you can stream doesn't mean you can be in VR simultaneously while streaming. You might need a little more oomph. I see Brew nodding his head like, been there. RAM, you really should have like 16 gig or more. If you've got an older computer and it's DDR3 RAM, that's okay. You can still powerful enough computers. But typically nowadays, we're usually getting DDR4, and now there's the new DDR5 with newer motherboards and computers. Storage, what should you have? Solid state drives. The hard drives are dead. Linus Tech Tips said it himself. The hard drives are dead. They're not dead, all right? They're still good. They're still cheap. They have lots of storage. But really, you should definitely have an SSD. But there is a difference. There's SATA and there's NVMe. SATA maxes out at 6 gigabit, or about 600 megabyte a second, okay? NVMe type SSDs, those are in the gigabytes a second. Big G, big B, gigabyte. Those are the ones that you want. So focus on those. But hard drives, like I said, are they bad? If it's what you boot from, yeah, it's going to stink. It's going to take forever for Windows to load up. So don't use them for booting, but for storage, they are still great. GPU, if you're going to be a streamer, NVIDIA is definitely the preferred way to go. And that's really going to be because NVIDIA has a video encoder system they call NVENC. AMD does have a video encoder on it. It's just not as good. And I'll leave it at that for now. So, hardware versus software encoding. All right. So, we got hardware, we got software. If you have a GPU, that's where the hardware encoding is going to be. But if you don't have a good graphics card, or maybe you have one of those AMD processors that has 64 cores, so you're not going to have a problem, right? So, just some examples of what we've got for hardware encoding. NVIDIA cards with NVIDIA NVENC. Any cards that are at least the 2000 series and newer, so the 2000s and the 3000s, that's going to have the current generation of NVENC. That's Gen 7. Intel processors. Any Intel processor, so when you look at the model number, it's going to be like, i7, 12700K. If there's an F in that model number, you're not going to have hardware encoding. You won't have what's called Intel QSV or Intel Quick Sync Video. You won't have hardware encoding support. But if you just have a K in there, there's no F, you're good. You can actually rely on that to do video hardware encoding. Apple Silicon, their new M series chips, right? The M1, they just announced the M2. All right, some of you are going to be giggling because I'm just like, Apple, really? Yes. All right, those things are no joke. They can actually do 4K and 8K, H.265 even. They're nothing to laugh at. They are usable. There's several DJs I know that actually use Mac Minis, the new M1 model, to actually do their OBS Studio work, and they pull in feeds from their DJ station and their VR PC. AMD, they do have a video encoder, but like I said, NVIDIA's is still better. It's the more preferred one. So AMD's system is called VCE or VCN, Video Code Engine, Video Core Next, that's the new name. But yeah, so software encoding. We don't need graphics cards to do video encoding. We can just use our CPUs, their general purpose. But this is why I brought up, you need a lot of cores, all right? Essentially, anytime you need about 2 cores for every stream of 1080p video you want to do. That's just a general rule of thumb. You can technically do it with less, but you really should at least have 2 dedicated to the task. Bitrate. This is the most important thing, all right? Knowing your upload speed will help you determine your streaming bitrate, right? So a few ways to do that. You can use speedtest.net as pictured here. You can also use fast.com. So that's by Netflix. So that's what a lot of people use for doing their speed test. And so what we want to focus on here is, look, if your bitrate is higher than your upload speed, you're going to have a bad time. You'll have a lot of buffering. Your stream's going to stop and start constantly. You always want some overhead available. So for example, if you only have, let's say 3,000 kilobits worth of upload speed, or 3 megabit, right? Those are a little bit interchangeable. 3 megabit, 3,000 kilobit. Just remember that. Yeah, you don't want to use all 3,000 kilobits of your upload speed. You want some overhead. So it's recommended you pull back a little bit. So maybe make your bit rate set to 1,500 or 2,000 kilobit. So if you want to reduce your bit rate a little bit, focus on just lowering your video resolution. Or sorry, not resolution, the video bit rate. Never sacrifice your audio quality. Most of the time, it's cool that we can do video in VR and for events, but we really, really want to always have the best audio quality possible. So sacrifice video over audio every time. The bitrate you set is a target for your PC will aim for, but it may fluctuate a little below or above the target. So just because you set it for something like, 3,500 kilobits, you might see in OBS Studio it goes a little over or a little under, but it's staying like right in there, right as close as it can. But be aware, your actual bitrate is a combination of the video bitrate and the audio bitrate. So for example, if you set your video bitrate to 3,500 and your audio is set to 320, add those two together. That's going to equal 3,820, and that's about what you should expect in the stats info in OBS Studio. Sorry, math lesson. Math is important to streaming. So let's get into our stream flow. Okay, so do we just go straight from our OBS Studio to VRChat? No, it's not going to work. What we need is a content delivery network. So let's start with Twitch as an example. All right. We're going to fire up OBS Studio. Some of you, this might be your first time opening it, and that's fine. So I'd just like to introduce you to a couple things called profile and scene collections and some of the settings. So like I said, if you're launching OBS Studio for the first time, it's going to prompt you with an auto configuration wizard. So, and one of the things you could do is just say, I want to use Twitch, and it'll go, give me the username and password, and it'll help you just like automatically configure everything. Now, if you click cancel, that's fine. You can just click cancel, manually configure everything from the start. But if you click cancel and you're just like, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, it's okay. You can reopen the auto configuration wizard anytime. You just got to go up to the tools menu, and it's right there, one click away. Now, Streamlabs users. Most of the following information is applicable to your setup because Streamlabs is built on top of OBS, right? It's OBS with a lot of pay-to-win features, let's say. So, what are profiles? They store settings regarding your stream server and service. For example, if you're using Twitch, or maybe custom server settings. Also, your output settings, your audio, and your video settings. All right, so what's nice is maybe sometimes you stream to Twitch, maybe sometimes you stream to an alternative like YouTube or Mixcloud, just giving you some examples. What's nice is you don't have to go in and edit your settings every time. You just go up to the Profiles menu, select the appropriate one, and it updates the config under the hood. How about scene collections? So what you do is you're going to create scenes, right? And those are what you actually switch between in your OBS Studio. So like, here's a scene that shows my game capture full screen. Here's a scene with my game capture and my VC face capture in like a little picture-in-picture window. And you can swap between those. Just as an example, when we're doing like a DJ event, basically we'll have like a crowd cam and we'll have a DJ video sources, and we can swap between them. So like the DJ is big and the crowd cam is small, and then vice versa. So that's switching scenes. So you can store different scene collections based on what kind of event you're trying to do. Now, be aware, you can import and export these. Big tip, store your media files together in the same folder, all right? So what'll happen is you'll go and export your scene collection. You'll send that to your friend who wants to try it out. You'll send all the files. They'll go to import the scene collection, and it'll go, I can't find anything. And you're like, it's right there, but it's right there. It's not right there. all those files were in different places on the original person's drive. So maybe some stuff's in documents, some stuff's in downloads, and some stuff's in video. What you should do to fix this issue so OBS doesn't say there's missing stuff is gather up all those items, put them in like a folder on your desktop, build your scene so everything's connected, export it, and then share the scene collection file and that folder with all the files when you send it. That's going to save you a lot of headache. So let's start digging into OBS Studio a little deeper here. All right, so first we're going to start off with looking at settings. All right, so this is at the top, as you see here, right? We've opened up settings, and we're going to start at the top, general, that cogwheel up there. So my tip for you, those 3 settings that I have highlighted there, which start with show confirmation dialog, ... enable all 3 of those. Trust me. So one is, when you click start stream, ask to confirm you actually want to start stream. When you click stop streaming or stop recording, please click a confirmation window will come up and make sure like you actually want to do that. There's so many times where I've actually, myself or an event host has accidentally stopped the stream because it was just click and done. There was no, are you sure you want to do that prompt? So, all right. Audio settings. So we're jumping down a little bit. Don't worry about this. We're going to come back to stream and output there a little later, but I want to jump down to audio. What you should definitely focus on is setting the sample rate to 48 kilohertz, and channels should be stereo. Now, global audio devices. This is where you select the sources you want OBS to listen to. So, for example, set desktop audio to default. That way, in general, you're playing a game. Your game audio is going to come out through the default sound source, so like your speakers, your headphones. OBS is going to listen for your game audio there. If you've got your own separate microphone, there's options for adding what's called mic or aux audio inputs, so you can put your microphone there. And this way, OBS knows to listen to like game audio from one source and your microphone from another. And this is going to be very useful later. And then let's jump down to video. All right. So general rule of thumb, you're probably going to have a relatively recent computer from, let's say 5, 6, 7 years. It's going to be able to handle 1920 by 1080, or otherwise known as 1080p, just fine. You should be fine. So the option I have selected here at the top is called the base resolution. This is also known as your canvas. So this is the resolution of your OBS project or your workspace. So that window you start out with, that's going to be running in a resolution of 1920 by 1080. So that's where you put all your excuse me, your text items, your video sources, everything you combine together, that is your canvas, your workspace. Below that is your output resolution. Let this match your canvas, all right? Leave this at 1920 by 1080. Excuse me. So this is also your output resolution in the middle. It says scaled. Just don't change this here. We can change what our scaled output resolution for our stream is going to be later. So just make these 2 match. General rule of thumb. There's also a downscale filter option. Well, look, leave this as default. All right. Bicubic is fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I swear. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right. And then common FPS values. You should be sticking to 30 frames a second, especially if you're doing like DJ or music related content, right? The only time you should consider using 60 FPS is if you're streaming fast-paced, high-motion content such as video games, like Beat Saber, right? Now be aware, having a higher frame rate reduces your overall picture quality because you're sharing the bitrate across double the number of frames per second. So just please be aware of that. If you're not doing gaming streaming, just stick with 30. You're going to be fine. Most of the time, people are going to be doing this in the club, right? They're not always looking at the screen. Focus on the audio. So, all right. Let's pretend that we use the auto configuration wizard to plug in our Twitch account information. It's going to go and automatically populate back up here the stream section. All right, so it knows we're doing Twitch. By the way, tip: if next to the server option, if the menu there has an option for auto, let it do auto. Several of these services are going to have servers like throughout the world. Normally, when you set it to auto, it'll automatically figure out, oh, hey, you're in North America. I'm going to put you on the North American server, and thus forth. So there's a little bit of smarts to it. So it tries to put you to the closest server possible. So now we're going to come back to OBS settings in a second, but let's discuss content delivery services. All right. So the big two that we're going to be working on, we've got Twitch, we got VRCdn, and you'll notice in the corner, YouTube. Just don't use YouTube. It's going to cause you a headache. Most of the time these days, they've got the whole scanning for music stuff. It's easy enough to post a video and it says, "Hey, you've got music that's copyrighted." Excuse me. And it automatically flags it and just says you can't make ad revenue off it. Okay, but when it comes to live streaming, YouTube's constantly scanning for that. And most of the time, if you try to do your DJ stream across YouTube, you're going to find that they shut you down. So let's dig in. Twitch. So in general, there's basically 3 tiers, right? There's free, there's affiliate, there's partner. A few things to note here. The free version, if you just got a free account, your max bitrate is basically 6,000 kilobits per second, and there's an extremely low chance transcoding will kick in for you. All right. So basically, if you're streaming to Twitch at 1920 by 1080, they have transcoding features that for the higher level partners, to where it's like, oh, well, hi, we'll have your stream going out at not just the 1920 1080 source that you're sending us, but we'll make a 720p version, 480p, 360, and so on and so forth. So that now, if you're an affiliate, max bitrate, again, you should aim at is 6,000. There's a moderate chance of transcoding enabling. So usually, sometimes it depends on the time of day, how many viewers you've got going on at the time. Like, it might kick in later. It might not kick in right away at the start. Now, if you're a partner, typically the max bitrate you can aim for is like 8,000. They get a few extra perks, right? They've made it on Twitch. Transcoding is always available to them, excuse me. So just a few things to note. Now, Twitch does have a broadcasting guidelines. If you want to dig in and see some examples of what they would recommend for your encoding settings to be, there's a document there, stream.twitch.tv/encoding. And then super useful tool, the Twitch Inspector. So to get to it, you need to go to inspector.twitch.tv. So this allows you to test the health of your connection without going live, right? So no notification to your followers or active stream being broadcast, right? You don't have to worry about everyone that watches you getting a ping and only to find stream test going on. How do you do it? You have to add to the end of your stream key, you add ? bandwidth test equal true. This will signal to the Twitch server when you go live, when you start streaming with OBS that, hey, we're in test mode. I'm using the inspector. They also have make sure you remove that off the end before you're actually going to do a real stream. Otherwise, you're going to be, hey, nothing's showing up on my Twitch channel. So they do have a guide for that. The URL is too long to say, so just Google for Twitch Inspector. It'll show right up at the top. Excuse me a sec. Whoop. Yeehaw. Okay. Now, due to music licensing complexities, we'll leave it at that, it is recommended that a DJ disable Twitch VODs. If you want a recording of your stream, you should enable that in OBS. Twitch URLs, by the way, work most of the time with an occasional hiccup to an ad, because there's an ad running. Now, I'm talking about when you plug in the Twitch URL into a VRChat video player. But a lot of you will be familiar that you do that, and all of a sudden, there's a thing that says, commercial break, and there's like a 15-second countdown, and then the stream starts, right? So that's what we're talking about. Now, the most compatible worlds with the best video players are going to be SDK3 based. Speaking of video players, we got to show some love for our own Texel, right? He's got an awesome video player. We call it Video Texel, Video TXL. So this is my personal favorite. If I see it in a world, I know everything is going to go just fine. So it powers worlds such as Furality Aqua's own Club Fin, and also basically all of the other video players throughout all of our worlds. Poe's Nightclub, and the Tailbase Cave. Shout out to Poe's Nightclub. Now, moving on from Twitch, my personal favorite content delivery network, VRCdn. It's a low latency streaming content delivery network specially crafted for the needs of the VR community. So if you'd like to check it out, their website is vrcdn.live. And if you've got questions or need more information, hit up their Discord. They're awesome. So, by the way, I went and snagged their Pride Month logo, right? So happy Pride, everybody. Now, VRCdn is headed by 3 people, Jazzy Senpai, Clue, and 24 Hour Music. Jazzy is the original creator. She's the lead project dev. She is awesome. She's also a kick-butt DJ. Now, there's an urban legend that's been going around. I started this by accident. I'm so sorry, everybody. If you say VRCdn 3 times into a VRChat mirror, I will appear and fix your stream. This is true. This is true. TechCast Pork, like I said, he's the HFF stream lead. He said, I showed him this slide, and he went, that's absolutely true. I said VRCdn 3 times, and Roxy showed up and helped fix the HFF4 stream issue. So I love this picture. This is another picture by Caboose. I love this so much. It's like I'm a Cheshire cat. So, VRCdn, what's it got? The features. Low latency, PC and Quest compatible streams. You can do public and private streams. Whoops. There's Rtmp and Twitch forwarding support. We got guest keys, relays, VODs, great support team and Discord community, supports bit rates up to 6,000 kilobits per second now, and tiny hats. Jazzy, I know you're listening. We love your tiny hats. So Jazzy also sent me several pictures I could toss up onto a quick slide just to show some real kick-butt events that were powered by VRCdn. Like look at this. Look at the community that's going on just in VR in general that wants to do events like this. It's awesome. So just several examples of events powered by VRCdn. More tiny hats, by the way. This one's my favorite, her server rack. You got Slyfest, Music VCat, Shelter, VRChat's own New Year celebration, all the VR portals you've seen at IRL cons, and a whole lot more. All right. So let's actually, we talked about using Twitch. Twitch was easy mode. Let's start getting a little more advanced. So instead of using Twitch, we're going to use VRCdn. So here's your stream flow, right? You're going to output from OBS, point at VRCdn, and we're going to be able to plug in a URL into VRChat video players and have a party. So this is what the web interface looks like for VRCdn. By the way, just to say, I'm going to make these slides available online. If it's a little tough to read, don't worry about it. You're going to be able to download these later and have a closer look. So here you go. So let's actually take a look at the interface. So up here at the top, we have server and we've got stream key. All right. So that server and stream key, these are fake, by the way. Don't try using them. They're not going to work. All right. So those are what you as a streamer are going to plug into your OBS Studio. There's also a regen and disconnect button. So, if that key or any of the keys here become compromised, there's always a regenerate button so you can get a fresh one. All right. And that disconnect button, let's say you were doing a stream test and for some reason you go to try to send to your stream and it's not working. Maybe there's a glitch in the matrix. You have a force disconnect button that should shut down anything that's stuck, basically. Now, what's super important are these 2 URLs right here, Rtsp and MPEG-2. These are your URLs that you want to use in the VRChat video player. All right, Rtsp, that's going to be for low latency for the PC users. Quest users, at least not at this time, we're hoping maybe in the future, Quest users can't load that stream. What you need to use is the MPEG-2 one. Now, that's actually going to be an MPEG TS stream type. Quest users can use that as well as PC. So the only difference between using Rtsp and the MPEG-2 there is the MPEG-2 has maybe a few extra seconds of latency. So if you're going to support your Quest community, use that one. PC is also covered in that case. Now, there's also a feature here that lets you forward your stream automatically to your Twitch. So all you need to do is log into your Twitch account, find your stream key, copy paste in here, and boom. When you go live to VRCDN, it'll automatically send a copy of your stream to Twitch as well. So you'll plug in, it'll work in VRChat, and your Twitch will also go live for anyone that's not in VR, and they can view it that way. Now, Twitch isn't the only option. If you click on that menu right there, there's a way to add custom Rtmp URLs. So you can make it forward to more places than just Twitch, right? So here's an example of that. Here's going to be your stream flow. They call it simulcasting. We point at VRCDN, and it sends it to 2 places at once. It makes it available for VRChat and to Twitch. And there's a couple buttons at the bottom here. We've got preview and we've got stats. So you don't have to be loaded into VRChat to test your stream. If you just click preview there, you'll be able to see a preview of your stream right there in your web browser. And stats, that's pretty cool too. You click stats, it'll give you several pieces of information. Mainly, one of the things that's very important to people is to be able to see how many people are watching the stream right at that time. Right? Maybe you want some literal statistics. Recently, Jazzy messaged me and was just like, go look at the API. Go look at the API. I'm like, okay. So not only can you see your total viewers, but you can actually see viewers based on region. So I can actually see how many people are connected from North America, Europe, Japan, and Australia, all separately. Now, I mentioned, so that was how you do like your public streaming. Like those were the URLs and setup and everything for anybody can come to the party, anybody can see it. But maybe you want to have, maybe a birthday party and you want to keep it private. So what you can do is you can generate a temporary stream key that you stream to that using that stream key. And that stream key also matches in the URL, like the Rtsp URL there that you plug into the VRChat video player. So that way, even if somebody had your public Rtsp URL, doesn't matter. It won't work. They will not be able to see your stream unless they have the exact one with the randomized stream key there. So this way we can keep your party, whatever it's going on, just available in the VRChat world you're in. Okay, so let's actually use one of those cool features, guest keys, right? Maybe you don't want to give out your main stream key. You should keep that to yourself. So what you should do is generate a guest key. This will allow guest DJs or other event hosts to be able to stream to your account and make it go live without giving them the original credentials. So what you want to do is log into the website, and at the top bar, there's several links. We're going to go to guest. And as you see there, Buru, don't worry. That's not your guest key. That's not your old guest key. I haven't deleted it yet. That is like Buru Tatsu got his own VRCDN account not too long ago, but I can't bring myself to deleting his original guest key. It's like a national monument to me. So let's actually add one. So all you need to do is type a name down there at the bottom. In this case, for my demo, I'm just going to type in demo and click create. And it adds a line there, and it gives us a key. And we're good to go. Now, I'd like you to notice there's a few things here, right? We've got Twitch forwarding for each guest. There's a live indicator, and there's a delete and disconnect buttons. So now, if you want to enable the ability for Twitch forwarding just for that guest key, click where not set is actually a link. It's a hyperlink. You click on that, you'll be presented with a page that says input Twitch key here. You can send that URL to the person you're setting up the guest key for, and they can input their key themselves and keep the key a secret. It's never exposed. If you ever want to remove the key, click delete. And just like before, we have a forced disconnect button. So maybe someone's live, they're not supposed to be, or a key got compromised. I have kicked you off, I've deleted it, and let's generate a new key. So, what do you need to provide to the person you made the guest key for? You need the server URL at the top, and you need to give them the key that was generated for them right there. So let's take that, and we're going to go back to our OBS. Okay, so what you want to do to use VRCdn, we're going to open up OBS, go to settings, and then we're going to go to stream. Excuse me. Okay, we're going to change the service to custom, and we're going to copy paste the server URL in and copy paste the stream key in. Now we need to actually start configuring our encoder. So next on the chopping block, we go down one option to output. Now when you first go there, if this is your first time, output mode is going to be set to simple. We don't want to do simple. We're going to change stuff. We're going to, we want to really, get down and dirty. So we're going to change that to advanced. So here's what it looks like. It's not too scary. Don't worry, it's not too scary. So there's a lot going on here, right? So the following settings I'm going to provide here, they're based on VRCdn's current max bitrate allowed and some other recommendations. All right, there's 4 tabs at the top, and we're going to focus on 3: streaming, recording, and audio. So what we want to do is set audio track to 1. Just trust me on that. That's going to be like the main audio track we're pulling everything through. Your encoder, you should set that to NVIDIA NVENC H.264 new. So like I said, highly recommended. Use an NVIDIA card. The NVENC video encoding is great. But wait, hold on a second. There's another option, right? Yeah, you could choose to use X264 and do software encoding using your CPU. Just reminding you that that is there. There's a few other encoder options out there, but we're not going to dig into them. But everything we're talking about here still applies. Next, what we're going to want to do is set Rescale Output to 1280 by 720, otherwise known as 720p. You might be asking, why not 1920 by 1080? Aren't more pixels better? Well, about that, yeah, 1080 is awesome. But there's a few things to consider, all right? 1080 sometimes is a little bit hit or miss on video players in VRChat. Also, we're only over, as we're at a point with our headsets where the resolution per eye, we're what, 1K, 2K, maybe total, you can count 4K between the two eyes. So it's still not too high. 720p is going to look just fine. It also reduces the complication for, excuse me, ran off the, 720p is just a little bit easier. Trust me on this. If you're trying to tell the difference between 720p or 1080 on a screen in VRChat right now, unless you're using one of those Pimaxes that do 8K, you're probably not going to notice a difference. And most of the time, like I said, you're jamming to the music. You're enjoying yourself. There's a whole light show going on in a lot of the clubs, like Club Orion as an example, or the Tailbase Cave, right? It's 720p is going to look just fine. So moving on to more settings here. All right, as we go down the list, rate control, set it to CBR. That stands for constant bitrate. Don't use VBR, variable bitrate. It sounds like a good option in theory, like, maybe my internet connection is having a little bit of an issue, and I set my bitrate to 6,000. Variable bitrate will be like, oh, well, I'm smart enough to be like, oh, this particular frame only needs 1,000. Thank you. Only needs like 1,000 kilobit. And the thing is, yeah, in theory it sounds great. Or maybe your internet connection got a little bit weak for a moment there. Well, first and foremost, if your internet connection is having issues like that, you should be calling your ISP and getting that fixed. We don't want to use variable. We want to use constant. We always want to provide a consistent bitrate as best we can. It's better for quality and consistency. It's better for the servers that you're connecting to and for the clients on the end, us here in VR. Trust me. There's other options there called CQP and lossless. And unless you're trying to send your stream out at 50, 100, 500 megabits per second, stay away from those options. Those are more for like very high quality recording. So we're going to set our bitrate to 6,000, and we're going to set our keyframe interval to 1. If you're going to use Vrcdn, never set it to 0. Don't. Vrcdn works best when you set keyframe to 1, all right? Now, Twitch is, you can do 0, 2, 300, whatever. Twitch doesn't care. But to get the best experience and the best stream with Vrcdn, we want it set to 1. Preset, we're going to set that to performance. And profile, we want set to high. Now, continue going down. What's look ahead? Again, this is one of those things where it's like, don't worry about it, all right? Just don't. Just leave it unchecked. What about psychovisual tuning? NVIDIA Dark Magic. This is some cool stuff that they did. Psychovisual tuning, the briefest explanation I can give you is it tries to figure out the best bit rate for high, like moving, like high motion and moving content. General rule of thumb, leave it on. It's going to help. All right, GPU, it should be set to 0. Now, don't think about changing it unless you have more than one GPU in your PC. So this is one of those weird computer things. GPU 0 equals GPU number 1. So a lot of times on computers, counting starts at the number 0 and then goes up. So 0, 1, 2, etc. So if you don't have more than one card, leave it at 0. And max B frames. These help with compression efficiency. An explanation about different types of B frames. There's I, there's P, there's B. It needs its whole own panel. So set it to 2 and forget it. I know Buru's going, but wait, I helped fix an issue for some of the people coming to my stream by setting it to 0. Okay, if you're trying to troubleshoot something, give it a shot. But if you actually dig into it, if you compare the bitrate coming out when you have it set to 2 versus 0, 2 should be having just the same amount of visual quality for a smaller bitrate. But in this case, sometimes it helps fix an issue. There was a number of people connecting that weren't able to load the stream for some reason, or were getting a stuttery stream. But then Buru just tried, let me do this change, and it seemed to work for them. A lot of times, it's more so an internet and a network issue. In this case, it worked, but it doesn't mean it works for everybody. Recording. It's often a good idea, right? So what you should do here is leave type set to standard. Why not custom? This is why. Might make brain hurty. There's a lot of options to consider here. So we're going to leave it set to standard. Choose where you want your recordings to be saved on your drive. And recording formats you should use are MKV and FLV. Why not MP4? Because if OBS crashes, it's going to be a damaged file. It's a pain in the butt to repair MP4s. MKVs and FLVs are just like, whatever, I'm fine. Just reopen OBS and start recording again. Now, we can remux to MP4 later, no problem. There's a feature for that built right into OBS Studio. So remuxing is not re-encoding. It allows us to put the audio and video tracks in a different container, such as an MP4 file. So because we're not re-encoding, the process is as fast as copying a file. So to get access to this, you just need to go up to the File menu, select Remux Recordings, and you'll be presented with this window. MKV and FLV file in on the left, MP4 out on the right. Continuing on settings. So select the audio track you want to capture. MKV and FLV containers allow you to store multiple tracks of audio. MP4 usually only lets you do one. Example, track 1 can be a mix of your mic and game audio, and track 2 can just be your mic source, right? So maybe you want them separated later because you're going to do some editing. For simplicity, we're only going to capture a single combined track of audio. Now, encoder, we're going to set it to use the stream encoder. So this will create recordings that are an exact copy of your stream. No additional CPU or GPU performance hit. If you choose another option, you'll be asking your CPU or GPU to do more work. You're going to be engaging another encoding process. So just be aware of that. And you're also going to have to customize it, just like you did for streaming. Audio, can you hear me now? Good. All right, here you can set the bitrate for each track of audio and optionally give it a name for reference. Typical, Typical rule of thumb, audio bitrate, you should set to 320. This is going to be in kilobits per second, KBS, and the format will be AAC. So let's get into some juicy bits, right? Multi-DJ events. We got pre-recorded, we got live. You might have a VJ doing lighting and stuff for you. And there's also crowd cams. So just a reminder, here was the simulcast stream flow for when it's just you as an individual. We're wanting to send your stream out to VRChat and Twitch. Let's get a little more complex. Boom! Okay, this is getting scary, right? All right, so all the way on the far left, DJ or crowd cams are going to feed into an Rtmp relay. It could be your own relay that you've rolled up. It could be Vrcdn's relay service. And then that's going to send to you or a VJ, and then onward. Excuse me. Thank you. Rtmp relays. Vrcdn has a feature. You could even do self-hosting. My favorite is Vulture. There's Linode, DigitalOcean. You got the other cloud hosts, AWS, Azure's, and they're overcomplicated messes. If you just want a little simplicity, I like these. If you're going to use the relay feature on Vrcdn, log into the website, click relay. For the least latency and best possible connection, you should provide the DJ or crowd cam operator with the relay server geographically closest to them. If they're in the US East Coast, give them the US East relay. So what you need to give hand over is the relay URL and the relay key. It's the same as the stream key down at the bottom. So you've given that to your crowd camera or the DJ. The encoder settings, they're going to have to go through the same thing, right? Check their PC specs, determine what they can do for bitrate, software versus hardware encoding, and test. How do we get their feed into our OBS? All right, we need to turn the relay server URL and key into a single URL. It's going to look like this, very simplified. And then we're going to add this to a media source in our OBS. So what I like to do is go back into OBS Studio, go to Sources, click the plus icon there in the bottom and select Media Source. Optionally give it a name, and you might be adding a lot of sources. It's easy to lose track. Leave yourself breadcrumbs. All right. Uncheck local file. You'll be able to input the URL. Make sure there's no extra spaces in it or OBS gets cranky. And then the things I like to do is reduce network buffering to 0 megabytes, reconnect delay to 1 second, close file when inactive, enable the check mark, and click OK and test. If you're self-hosting, I don't have enough time to show you all how to set up a Linux virtual machine, but they can be pretty cheap. The thing you really want to know is relays don't need much CPU power, but you do have to be aware of bandwidth usage. So, for example, if you're getting a feed at 4,000 kilobits a second, that's going to be about 1.8 gigabytes of bandwidth an hour. Beware. Really cool tool, Rtsp Simple Server. You want Rtmp, Rtsp out. You want to basically self-host your own style, be able to do what Vrcdn does. You could use this tool. It runs on Mac, Windows, and Linux. I'd love to talk about my personal projects more. You'll be able to hit the slides up. I'm running short on time. But look out for these on GitHub, and I'll put info out on some tweets. And here, just letting you know, jumping to the end. Yep. Again, the panel slides will be made public at a later date after the convention. Check my GitHub and check my Twitter later for updates when I'll be posting all of this and for projects I post. So thank you all very much. I hope this was enlightening and helped you get your streams and events going and even better. Have a great convention.